Hello, everyone. This is Milton James from the Milton James podcast, and today I've got a good fortune of interviewing my good friend, Mr. Dean Clark from New Jersey. Dean, how you doing today?
Doing great, Milton. Thanks for having me.
Man, I was so excited to be able to talk to you, and one of the reasons is we always hear about guys like you. It's this red book that a lot of the Keller Williams agents are familiar with, and I hope you don't mind me saying this. But
Hmm.
listen, I would want to be told that too. My good friend Dean Clark is a millionaire realtor. He made $1 million in New Jersey. I don't care what market you're in, big or small. That's a huge accomplishment, man. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm whatever value I can provide to the group and others outside of this, happy to do it.
Perfect, perfect. Well, listen, one of the things we have is it's called the National Prospectors Group. It's a free Facebook group of internet, national and some international people that prospect. Mike talks about prospectors and getting business versus waiting for business. So you, my friend, are a powerful prospector, aren't you?
Yes, that's what I do 5 days a week, pretty much all day now. I'm more like you, Milton, in the way that I feel like there's not enough hours in the day to just hit the phones more
Love it.
outside of doing everything else in the process. So.
Love it. Love it. So tell me about yourself, man. Where are you from?
Yeah,
How long you
so
been in
I grew up
business?
I grew up in Jersey here, I mean, not too far away, but because Jersey's so dense, you basically like 45 minutes away is you could be anywhere else in like Tennessee. It's like 2-3 hours away, basically, right? So, I moved into area called Hoboken, Jersey City, where I basically established my business about 10, 11 years ago now. But for the first 6 years of my career, I was on a team. I was actually a buyer's agent on a team. That's what I did for the first 6 years, and I coached with Tom Ferry actually during those years. So that was a different of a thing. And then I went from that, went on my own in 2017, and so for the last 5 years, I've been with Remax, and I started with Mike Ferry in the end of 18. So really, the first full year was 19. So I've only been it. So this is my fourth year basically going into with the Mike Ferry system, and I mean, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, but it's fun.
Wow. Wow. So what was the biggest difference between Tom Ferry and then Tom's original coach, Mike?
Well, I mean, there's a foundation, right? Like, I mean, Mike Ferry built this foundation for Tom to thrive in the way he's doing it. But I think it's just a personality thing. I'm not like, I mean, I really wanted to master the sales game. Like that was just what I wanted. Tom Ferry is great for like for me. I'm very ADD. Like I just can't focus. If I focus on too many things, nothing gets done. Everything gets half-assed, and I'm not really like that. So yeah, I mean, you could tell us about a Facebook ad or do something with technology or do something that's it. But it's like, and by the way, I was a heavy Zillow agent. So what I mean by that is I closed in 2016 personally. I closed 27 Zillow leads that year myself.
Wow.
That's just one
Wow.
source. And this is in a market now. It wasn't like what you guys are experiencing now. Well, it's even more so now for you guys. But like let's say last year, right in the beginning of the year, is what we experienced in the city over here by New York City. Right, the market was just raging. It was crazy. Multiple bids everywhere, and so having to do that. So that kind of created my database. All those buyers that I closed. Hundreds now. I mean, at this point that I closed, and now I basically use that as my foundation for my database prospecting for listings now. But basically, that
Nice.
was a huge thing. But it's I mean, Mike Ferry is the godfather for a reason because the guy, he just for me, it makes sense. I wanted systems, I wanted structure, and I like the discipline aspect of it.
I got you. So what was the chain? Like what was the push that got you from, to jump into the system?
It was, yeah, great. It's a great question actually, because in the summer of 18, the market
Yeah.
started to shift. If you guys remember, interest rates started to go up closer to 5%. At least around here in my market, people were freaked out. They're like, "What's going on?" Stock market took a dive that in the fourth quarter of 18, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I'm a Tom Ferry agent in September of 18, and I had 8 listings. They all canceled on me, every single one of them. Like literally did not sell them. They all sold with other brokers. I don't know what I got burned big time. I thought I was a good prospector. I was like the cold call guy, the cold call cowboy. And then I realized like, oh shit, I had no no systems in place. I had nothing. So after losing 8 properties in 1 month, listings, they weren't even under contract. They were just listings that they canceled because they hated my service at the time. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I was like, I'm going to go to the main guy who basically trained, one of my good friends now, Patrick Southern, and others that I know have exploded and have done amazing things over time. And I'm like, and so I actually sat down with Patrick, as a matter of fact, and he was like, just talk to the guy that like showed me. I was like, okay, fine. So I did, and that's when I signed up. Literally, I went to one event in DC, and then I signed up right after that.
Nice. Now, who's your coach?
My coach now is Kevin Eldred.
Okay, my mom has Kevin Eldred, and my mom's on this call today too. So,
nice.
So so how many years have you been in business?
So it's 11 years total. 5 years
okay.
on my own. 5 years on my own now.
Wow. And so you used to be a buyer's agent.
That's right. 6 years a buyer's agent.
All right. Because a lot of us go to these retreats and they hear Mike talk about listings, and they don't want to join a team, right? Like, I could do that myself, and they want 100% of a great. But what was that like for you? Going onto a team.
I mean, doing it like if for the time, if it was done right, I don't know if I would have ever left. Honestly speaking, I mean, I feel like the leadership in real estate agents is horrible, in my opinion, for the majority of. And so that's what I'm trying to build now, right? I'm trying to transition into being a better leader for the team and the agents I have. But back then, it was just like, I want to make a buck. I didn't really. There was no long-term thinking about, should I develop these skills of listing? Should I do this? It was just like, I want to make a sale. I'll go show a couple houses. You're talking 2012, 13, 14. Like I'm a 27, 28-year-old kid. Like I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to show a couple houses and bang it away. And then, but I also had to learn the market. So I think what's great about being on a team, the benefits you actually get is that you learn the market. That's the first thing, right? And I previewed properties all day long because I was showing buyers. So that's the one thing Mike Ferry talks about, right? Preview property. So that was the first thing. The second thing is you learn how the behavior is with buyers, right? So when you get on the listing side of things, okay, like how do they think about it? What are they saying? What's the feedback in person as they do it? And then you kind of get your chops that way. Like that experience was probably the best foundation I could have had. Otherwise, it probably would have taken me a long time. I don't know if I would, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but I look at it that everything happens for a reason, and I believe that. And so that's kind of like what were my initial takeaways from that experience.
Yeah. Now, what caused you to go from buyer's agent on a team to doing your own thing?
It was basically just like, I just didn't believe in the leadership of the team leader at that time. And I was like really a quasi partner in a way at that point. So, we had closed, the team had closed at that point. It was a total of 96 deals. And, but it was just also a money thing. And I knew I was going to start a family. So I said to myself, I want to make more money, but I have enough of a backing of 4 or 5 years now of past clients and a database of like, okay, I think I can do it, on my own. And that's kind of like what spurred me on to be, have the confidence to really, it's more of a confidence game, as you know, right? Like it's just like knowing that you could do it and having the belief in yourself. If I had more belief in myself, I would probably be, and that's like the secret, right? Like the secret is not about you can't do what we do. It's your own belief and confidence. So
100%. It's so interesting. We have the same scripts. We all say the same thing.
Yeah.
But the difference is not the 7% of words, it's the 38% of the tonality, right?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And also you have to watch what you say to yourself. And I'm talking about when you're by yourself, like you're in the car, going to the office, going to an appointment. What is your conversation with yourself? That was huge for me because I was so negative. I was so like, I was not my mindset was just like, it was like, basically the way I look at it too, Milton, is I've always looked at this. I've had 2 bank accounts in life, right? I've worked on my financial one, obviously over the years, finally at a good place where like, okay, we actually have a business now. And who's talking over me?
No, everyone's muted, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But basically but you have.
Who's talking over me?
Yeah. Exactly. Jersey style. But you also have your emotional bank account, right? So you have 2. So that's the way I look at it. So my emotional bank account for years was always negative, and I could never understand why I could not get to the next level in my financial bank account. It's because my self-talk was horrible. I didn't do any affirmations, and I was just
So
like,
good.
so like, that the mindset shift for me was the biggest thing,
So good, man. So where'd you get that from, by the way? The two bank accounts.
It was probably from one of my Tom Ferry coaches, or probably some book I read. Honestly, I don't remember, but
So obviously, a lot of us are here to understand how to increase the financial bank account.
right.
But how do you or how did you? Because you have a beautiful family, you've got a couple kids. I think you're at 8 now.
Yeah, we just had our third daughter, so
Wow,
yeah,
all girls.
all girls.
All right. Well, I'm a big brother of 3 girls. I love them to death. So,
Nice.
how did you increase your emotional bank account?
It was many things. I would say is like, going to going to events, basically, getting around people that actually, I think proximity is power. I really believe that.
Mm,
And so when you have exposure, it's all about exposure. I mean, my exposure in this little area of New Jersey from all my life. And by the way, I did live in Florida for about 2 years in Boca Raton. I went to school at Lynn University. So I know a thing or
AKA
two.
South Jersey.
South, yeah, exactly. So like everyone was like from like my area anyway. So, but that was a good time in my college years. But basically, I wasn't exposed to anyone. My family doesn't know anyone really. I mean, yeah, my mom's an agent, does really well, but the exposure was not ever there. And like that was the first thing. The second thing is, I would write down affirmations every single day. So like it would, I would come up with affirmations like it could be anything that is true to you, and I would write that down and I would chant it out. Also, what gave me the confidence, I guess, and to increase that emotional bank account was to practice and role play, like what we always talk, like Mike Ferry talks about, like just knowing what to say. For me, was
Mm,
huge. I've always wanted to be a wordsmith,
mm,
and like be like
love
a
it.
ninja with the words. And so, like sales is something I've always wanted to master. And
Yeah.
anyway, so that's kind of for me, what did it. Everyone's different, but
Oh, that's
that's
so good, man. Keep going. This is beautiful. This is
yeah.
beautiful.
So, but with my family though, that gave me another boost of confidence, because
Mm,
now you really got to commit to your schedule. Now you really, so
mm,
that like what happens when you have kids is that your time gets super constrained. So
mm,
there is no time to like, oh, maybe I'll just like, hang out for a little bit and maybe not make this phone call. Like, dude, I was, as an example, tired as hell yesterday. I did not
mm.
want to follow up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was ready to go home. I was done. But
Yeah.
even at this point in my career, and I said, what would I tell myself in the future
Mm,
that I pushed through today because I was tired? So I have a saying now to myself, which is, I'd rather be tired than be broke.
mm,
So, and that's not something I ever want to do. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to go. I did an hour of follow up and of course got a listing appointment from it. Right. But it's like,
mm.
but the emotional bank account is like, it's all those things. And, but yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Everyone starts with like a job. They start with the money. It's like, no, you got to start with your mind. Your mind is it could be your best enemy. I mean, or it could be your best friend or your worst enemy. So make it
Mm.
your best friend, work on that.
Wow. Wow. Well, and so, you mentioned affirmations, you mentioned role play. Talk to me about role play. Like, a millionaire realtor, you're telling me still role plays every day?
Of course, Milton, you know how it is. I mean, we got to, I role play. I'm part of the East Coast Excel group actually now, which is great.
Mm,
It's an everyday thing. I'm sure some of you guys have done it. I still do it. Role playing every day is probably, I mean, that's like what you have to do to me. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, you got to role play. I mean, if you don't know how to practice, by the way, like, I think Mike Ferry hit the nail on the head with this saying, which was that it's muscle memory, right? It's
mhm,
literally like going to the gym. Like what the Mike Ferry system is and how we do it is literally like going to the gym. If anyone's run a marathon before, or they've done any working out or done anything on a diet exercise
mm,
perspective, it's literally like you're trying to build muscle. And so, like prospecting, that's a muscle, right? So as an example, one of my guys on my team, Moses, he's starting to get into listings now, and I encourage everyone to
mm,
get into listings. I'm not one of those team leaders that are like, oh, you're a buyer's agent, stay in your corner. No, I'm like, if you do whatever you got to do, I want to make money. This isn't about like, So he asked me, he's like, well, I want to get to your level, dude. I want to prospect 3-4 hours a day and then not miss a beat. I was like,
mhm,
well, it took me 4 years to get here, right?
mm,
Because it's like a marathon. So you build up over time. And what my coach, David Vanoy, actually, he asked me, he's like, so I said to him, never forget this. Like last year, I said to him, I was like, on one of the coaching calls, hey man, I did 6 hours of prospecting. It was a fucking badass. I just did it. I booked like 3 appointments. He's like, okay, can you do that tomorrow? I was like, probably not. He's like, I don't care. I love the fact that you work your ass off, Dean. I really do. And I respect it. But I want you to do stuff that you can consistently do 5 days a week and then build it incrementally over time to get to, if you can even do 6 hours in a day, 5 daday a week. So to him, so that was an aha moment for me. It was like, just do what you can. So I told my guy, I was like, what can you do right now that you don't want to skip a beat? You don't, your energy doesn't get zapped from it. He's like, an hour. All right, start with there. Then add another 15 minutes. And every single month or every single week, you should add another 15 minutes of prospecting and then just be done with it. Be done, move on. And then the next week, add another 15 minutes. And you keep it building it up.
Kind of like a 1% improvement every day.
That's it, man.
That's huge. Getting back to the role play thing, I heard Deion Sanders. There was a video, and I don't know if you've seen it, but he said, my competition used to practice just to practice. I used to practice to be the greatest ever.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's kind of what you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah. You gotta, absolutely.
So talk to me about your sources, man. Where did your business come from last year?
50% from past clients, actually.
Wow. Holy smokes. So 50% from those old Zillow leads?
Yeah. So we did exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have, I would say the majority, half of those. So we transaction count. So you got to remember, a function of my market is a lot of rentals. I know other markets, they don't have rentals up there, but like over here, it's New York City, man. Like it's just people can, I do condos the majority of the time. I do multifamily. So you have the option of renting it out. It's just a function of our market. So I would say about half of that business, right? The ones that did end up selling, I'm only counting my sales, right? But you got to remember, I could have easily had over 100 deals, but 35 of them ended up choosing to rent as opposed to selling, right? So it's like, it's one of those things. I mean, I can't force someone to do that. So we did about 72 deals, which equated to $1.05 million in income, or a little bit less, $1.35 million, somewhere in that range, right? But that was only for me, one assistant at the time last year, because I only had the 2 agents that came. Moses came on board in December, and Aggie came on board in the middle of the year. But she was like really new, completely new. She was doing what she had to do, but there was no production there, right? So it was one other buyer. It was one agent, me, and one assistant. So 3 of us did basically $1 million, right? And
got it.
So now we're scaling, and now we're going into like obviously different waters. And already we think we have pending. It's like closing pending. We're about $350,000 to $400,000, somewhere in that range. So
nice.
It's so yeah.
Were those mainly buyer deals or seller deals? Where were they at? Like what was the split, buyers to sellers?
The split of those was we closed 53. So about 20 buyer deals came as a result of the agent on my team. I didn't work with any buyers, so I'm only listings. I sold 53 listings last year.
Okay, I got you. I'm right there with you. Okay, good. So, and then the $1.35 million, that was what the team made all together, and then you split it up yourself. Okay,
that's right.
Makes sense. Good.
Yeah.
And so 50% were past clients. What was the other half?
And the other half was a mix of everything. So what I like to do in the mornings, dude, is like to hit up 5 to 6 sources a day, if I can.
Got it. So schedule. So talk to me about your morning schedule, please.
Well, right now it's all wonky because of the 3rd baby. But like, when I do get in, I mean, let's put it this way: it's 8:30 to 12 is when I usually get in, about 8:15, 8:30, depending upon the schedule of the role play and what we do. I'm usually on the phones, but no later than 9. And I go from 9 to 12. That's just what I do, right? So I just call. So basically, you got expireds, FSBOs, get them early, get them out of the way. I go right to the database after that. One thing I heard from Lee Marcus, a top agent in Chicago, he said on one of the panels, one superstar retreat, if you guys heard this, I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. He was like, get through expireds and FSBOs as fast as possible and go right to your database as quickly as possible. And I was like, oh shit, okay, that's a good thought. So I go right to the database. I usually like to get 10 to 12 database contacts from there. And then that takes me about an hour, maybe a little bit less. And then the rest of the time is a mixed bag. It's usually just sold. It's going to internet sources like Homelight, some other ones that we have. And so right there, it's like what, 5-6 sources, maybe 4 or 5, somewhere in that range. So by 12 o'clock, I should have had that. And the goal is to get 30 contacts a day.
Okay. How come? Because you're spending what, 3 hours? Okay, so yeah, that's about right. So 30 contacts, and in the 30 contacts, how many appointments do you typically set?
A lot of the appointments I get are like not really in the sessions right now, like in the prospecting sessions. I usually get them in the follow-up time, in the afternoons or something like that. So
when's your follow-up time?
It's usually right after I'm done prospecting, or depends on what is immediate need right there. So it's either between 12 and 1 or 1 to 2 usually, or it depends. I mean, as an example, yesterday I did follow between 4 and 5. I mean, it's usually what it comes down to.
I got you. How come you wouldn't do your follow-up, like your hot lead follow-up, right at 8?
We can, but
like, would it make sense to start off with an appointment?
It's a good thought. I mean, it could be, but the problem is right now, Milton, is the schedule. Is that by the time I'm getting even into the office, for me I don't want to be rushing around in my car and calling someone at 8 o'clock when I'm literally getting Starbucks at that time. It's like I rather just do it when I'm prepared, when I'm here. So like I have a mastermind with Eddie Oberoi from California, right? Yeah. And a few other people, and like one thing he said, he just calls his database all the time. Like it doesn't matter what time of day, doesn't matter whatever. It's a good thought, but but the way that he's doing 4 million in GCI, obviously, so it's a different ball game.
He knows what he's doing.
he knows a thing or two. So I take that, I'm like, okay, so maybe I should call him at like in the really early in the morning or some other time. But I just haven't really felt that it's for me that it's I like to be as structured as possible, because what David Van Oy showed me was tracing the tree. I don't know if you heard about that, right? Tracing the tree in terms of your database, because I'm not going to remember every conversation, and I know that when I get called from people that I do business with, if they don't remember certain things, like I had a baby or something, I'm just like, okay, you're just another person calling me looking for business. Right. Whereas you're like, hey, how's the baby? Okay, fine. So like I'm going to mark that and trace, like, okay, they bought here, their anniversary is this. It's just like everything we talk about. But it's just like I have everything in a spreadsheet, so I know. I say, hey man, how's the baby? What's going on over there? How's the tenant going? Are they giving you any trouble? All that stuff. So
really show that you care by paying attention to the relationship.
Right. Which in turn, if I don't do it in the afternoon, by the time I'm done prospecting, it's like, at least right now, it's like it doesn't fit in because I'm not focused on that call. Nice.
That makes a lot of sense. I can ask you I'm on the 3rd page of notes here. So as a lot of these calls are selfish for me because I learned so much, man. Thank you so much. What else? Like, what's next? I see 1.5 behind you. Is that the goal this year?
Yeah. My personal listing goal is 100 listings that I'm taking. I want to sell 75 listings, and the GCI goal for the team would be 1.55.
So glad you said that, because the market's changing, and a lot of us, we don't know what's going to happen with the market, but the only thing we can control are the amount of listings we take, right?
I mean, that to me, Milton, that's like, I don't know why anyone tracks anything else. Like listings taken in this market is the leading indicator to know how good to me you're going to do. Like literally everything we have. We have double-ended multiple deals recently because of the listings that we have in house. It's like that opportunity wouldn't exist for any other team that is only focused on building a team as opposed to being like a listing agent, right? And so
probably a big advantage for a buyer's agent working with a guy like you is they work directly with you. They have all the information from the seller.
Exactly. And so we just did a deal that we would have never been able to double end if it wasn't how do I say it? Like, and by the way, we do pay a little bit for Zillow and Realtor.com right now, just to kind of get because the reality is I actually do get, and one thing I learned from David Van Oy and Josh Barker, who was a big time Mike Ferry agent for a while, he had mentioned 30% of all Zillow leads are sellers. So
Mm.
I said, I want a piece of that shit, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and so so a lot of times, and so what I have an initiative on my team, right? So I'm going to talk about this on my team training today, which is basically that there's multiple ways to increase your income on the team. Don't just sell a house. All right. So what I do to them is like, look, I'm not going to talk to anyone on ZillowRealtor.com, obviously. But what I tell them is like, look, I'll give you 12.5% if you just dish it back to me. Let me know, identify that they're a seller too. And so it's like, so I have like, everyone's looking for listings no matter what. They may not be prospecting like me, but they're looking for listings. And I have that in the back of their mind.
Nice. It's so interesting. I was talking to an agent on another team yesterday, and we were talking about what my buyer's agent Ed made. He cracked 100, just under 100K last year, and she was like, "Well, he did less volume." I was like, "Yeah, but most of his income came from prospecting. He got a referral for finding listings." Do you guys have something similar?
Yeah, we have. So you mean like what they did was basically, I mean, like in order. We're open, like whatever. I mean, however we get the business, like I don't care. It's kind of like a Navy SEAL approach in a way. Whereas, what are Navy? If I'm a nerd, so like I look into like how they do things and like all that stuff, and really what their thing was when they get a mission, they don't have a mission where like they're gonna micromanage everything how they do it and how they go about it. There's an outcome. There's a result. The result is getting an opportunity for a listing. I don't give a shit what you have to do. Call into the database, go into Zillow, go door knocking, go do this. It doesn't matter, but the result is getting a listing. So how do we do that? So go figure it out. I'll help you throughout the way. That's kind of like my mantra. That's how I like to do it.
Yeah, no, we love that. I heard Mike saying on the Think Big call earlier this week that Tiger Woods, every time he starts a tournament, his one mission is to win it.
Yeah,
and so
like what
every day.
Yeah. Dude, like put it this way, like I don't understand how people don't have the mindset of craving the result. And maybe I took that also from Tim Grover's book, the Relentless, right? Like, have you guys read that? Have you read that book? But like, MJ, Kobe, all these guys, they crave that result. It's not about like how you kind of got there. It's like do what like is going to work, and then just execute, but don't settle for a cheap lead. Or don't settle for someone who tells you I want to sell, but that they're not really serious. You know what I mean? Keep pushing and keep going. And that's kind of like the way I like to think about it.
Appreciate that, man. Well, listen, we got 14. We got about 20 people here listening to you live. I'm going to open it up for some questions and see if anyone has any questions. And if there's no questions, I'm just going to hammer the questions myself. So please, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself. And if there's an echo, go ahead and mute yourself. All right, question. What is your idea or definition of a motivated seller? Thanks, Nina. I think she had the echo. So
nice.
I don't have an echo anymore. I know it was.
Oh, she's good now.
But my question stems from, as a newer agent, right? You have been in the business for a long time, so you had a taste of what motivated sellers are. What I'm running into as I'm prospecting is that the expireds and the for sale by owners that we're seeing, they don't have to sell. They're just trying to test the market or something like that. An idea, now that I'm taking more and more listings, what you determine as a motivated.
Yeah, Nina, and I know you're doing big things, by the way, so kudos to you. It's a good question, and one question that I ask a lot now is, what is the benefit of going through this process? Like, what benefit are you getting from even selling it then? Right? Because they just say, I don't have to sell, I don't do this. To me, you can't tell me you want to go through a showing process and do all these offers and waste your time. Because I think we forget that what's the most valuable asset over money is time. So you're telling me that they want to go through all this craziness to just just because I want to? Bullshit. There's got to be a reason. So what's the benefit? So that's my question. Like, so Mr. Seller, like, what's the benefit by you even selling the property? And that's kind of like what opens it up to me. It's like it would allow me to, pay for college later. It would do, then it just like goes from there. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. I use something similar. Dean, what's going to happen if you sell this house? And what would happen if you don't? It's like,
Yeah,
find the
that's a
pleasure,
great, I
then
like that.
dig into the pain.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what's all this going to do for you and Mrs. Clark, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's good. That's great.
What else? What else? I know you guys have some questions. There's a lot of millionaire realtors on this call, or if you guys want to be, you have one right in front of you. Ask them the question. I've got a question. So at what point do you need a second assistant?
Oh, we have one now. He started about 3 months ago.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah,
it's
a he. Joey. Joey started 3 months ago, 4 months ago now, maybe, and mainly doing marketing, right? So like he's like a lot of. So if you notice, if you guys follow me on social now, I'm going deep into social with a lot of video stuff because I noticed, and again, I got this from Eddie Oberoi. He is holding me accountable on this other mastermind to basically say, get yourself on social. And I said, well, why? I just want to prospect and do my thing. It's because, well, if you have videos of yourself talking about it, I'm like, Eddie, how much business do you really get from social? He's like, Dean, you wouldn't believe how much business I get from social. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So he's working on that with me to just like set up the cameras and just do what you got to do. And I'm just putting myself out there. And I'm telling you, I had a past client that literally I prospected them in my database. It was a week ago now. And they said to me, it's like, Dean, I thought you were talking to me in that video that you did the other day. I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, you said this about the market not waiting for a crash. That was on my mind. And you answered it for me. And it was like, okay, so now I know I'm not going to wait. When can we get together? It was like, so I already answered, so anyway, that's what
So she was closing you 5 times.
Exactly. Exactly.
Nice. That's the question. How many units did you close your first year as a solo agent for my friend Marcellus Heath?
So I was the first year was, I think, 27. But I was a whore, dude, in my first year. What I mean by that is my commissions were, I couldn't hold my candle to any. Like I was like, I just gave it away. Like 2%, no problem. Like, you know what? Oh, we're having problems in the inspection, 1.5%, no big deal. So that 27 was really like 15, really. And then, but then I got stuck at around like 35, 40 for like, obviously the second year. And then it was like then 2019. And then, and then it was just like Mike Ferry system took it off,
Hey, Dean, I got a quick
My man
question.
is flushing the toilet.
Quick question for you. So I am at a point where I just hired an assistant. Well, just like 4 months ago. She's good. This is the first time in the business, but I don't. And just a little background. Finished last year at 32 transactions. So I have an assistant, but I guess my issue is like recently I've done well with my contacts. I hit 50 2 days in a row, first time ever.
Nice.
But I don't have a buyer's agent. So I guess I'm trying to figure out like how to manage that time between the contacts, because Monday, Tuesday, I didn't really have buyers that had needs. And then later on in the week, like I'm just trying to be consistent, like you said, 5 days a week, contacts, focus on listings, but at the same time, I have buyers that are trusting me to help them out, right? So
how many years in the business are you?
2 part-time, and this is my second full-time year. So total 3 and some change.
So 3 years, right? I mean, and how many deals did you say that you did last year?
Last year I finished with 30, right at 30, and the year before it was 26.
Do you have an assistant?
I just got an assistant. Yep.
So I would just focus on your assistant, build her skills up to the point where she's servicing your listings more than you are. That would be the first thought there, and then you can work with buyers and show them property. Also, it's all about your skills with buyers as well. And then the question I would ask myself is, how confident are you to close a buyer in the first day that you take them out? And by the way, are you preparing them for the market that you're in right now? Right? Because like, as an example, what I'm telling my team and what I'm talking about now is buyers are like listings in 2011. Like buyers are not like, who cares about a buyer, honestly? Like, I mean, I hate to say it like that because, you basically are a dime a dozen, just like a listing was when I started. Like anyone could get a listing, but nothing would sell. But it took about 3 months to sell. it's going to take a buyer of all the bidding they're going to have to do about 3 months to find a freaking property. So as long as they're aware of that, I would get more qualification, get better at your scripts about what questions you're asking them.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Yeah, we do a strategy session. So we talk through what's going on in the market, and I kind of weed out, like, you know, maybe some of them just, this isn't the market for them.
Yeah, and it may not be. And I told my team, I was like, Darren, I was like, guys, just go quick with the buyers. Just like, hey, ask them, are you ready to buy right now in this market? Are you prepared to like get bid out? Oh, if you're not, then okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. I would just keep going with those buyers. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. With that said, I do have 3 hot buyers. They're qualified for this market. They can put down whatever due diligence, and they're at good price points.
But if they're in good, but the question I would also ask on top of that is, you saying that they're hot buyers, they're ready to go. It's what they're telling you, right? But what about their behavior, right? Have they made multiple offers on things? Are they really trying to buy a property, or are they just wasting your time by saying, I'm pre-approved, I'm ready to go, I want to find something right away? Yeah. So like, you really got to like look at the behavior of this. Are they really serious, or are they just wasting your time?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I did narrow that down. At first, I thought I had 8, but I really do have 3 that's qualified in that position. So I guess the real question is, how do I manage that time and then still get my contacts focusing on listings, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and that's it. But see, the transition even for me was that it was my Teddy. Like Teddy's is like the operational manager of now the entire team. And she took on the role of servicing so much of the listing side business that it was like I could go, and I still went on buyers in 2020. I sold multiple buyers in 2020 because I had to do that. I didn't have a team back then, but I had these really good buyers. And what is Mike Ferry's definition of who you should be working with, right? It's referrals, and it's also your sellers that are buyers, because you already have them under contract. They already signed something with you. You know what I mean? So that's that's the way I look at it. It's like the quality of who you're talking to and the skill set that you actually have with that.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Darren, one of the things I noticed is when we try to get rid of buyers prematurely, we fail to look at our schedule in the afternoons. Like, how many days during the week do you have an appointment? And usually it's 1 or 2 that we actually have it. So you have 3 days that are just blank space. So you're either showing a buyer, that's an appointment. You're either doing more prospecting, and then third, you're door knocking or previewing properties. Zach says, "What's your definition of a lead?"
Like, there's a big question to it. It's a piggyback.
Go ahead.
So first, Marcellus asked the question. He wanted to know how many units you actually closed your first year as a solo agent.
It was 27.
27.
Yeah, I would answer that.
Oh, sorry. And then my question was, can you demonstrate a lead follow-up call for us? And what is your definition of a lead, basically?
So yeah, I mean, basically, so a lead follow-up call, I mean, it's
the script.
It's really the script. I mean, it's really the 2 questions, but it depends on the situation of what the lead told me, right? So like, by the way, I have also the benefit of having a family. And one thing I get from having kids and having a family is now I get what the behavior patterns are of these people. So I stopped asking the question, when's a good time to follow up with you? No. Based on what you're telling me, I'm going to have to follow up with you next week, because if you're about to have like a baby in 3 months, you either want to get it sold now, or you're not doing anything for a 6-month period, guaranteed. And if you do, you're literally nuts, and I probably don't want to work with you, right? So like, I've actually studied more. I'm actually now at a point where I'm studying behavior patterns of what they're saying, as opposed to just relying on like a script in a way, if that makes sense. So you have to kind of know how people are. Like, if they tell you, okay, so let's say, as an example, Nina, do you have an example for me of what someone told you?
We're actually talking about relisting the property, but I'm on the other line with my brother right now. Can you call me back later? Okay, so and so is your brother is your brother part of the decision to sell this property? Yeah, we both own it. He's actually on the other line. So can you call me back later? Yeah, I mean, call him back later. I mean, I don't, yeah,
merge him in.
It's like merge him in. I mean, it depends on how hot it is, and like if you're going to get it or not. But like, you know, it's funny because I feel like we kind of like have this fine dance in line of like building a relationship with somebody, but then also being in sales. And it's like, how, if I'm going to keep pushing someone to get an appointment, then am I, you know what I mean? It's like this like conundrum that I feel like a lot of agents get stuck in. It's like, well, I'm supposed to be, you know, have good relationships, but then at the same time, I'm supposed to be a salesperson. You know, like Milton does it a certain way. I do it a different way. You know, like all these other top guys do it a different way. But it seems to be, what's obvious to me is that the more production as you do, the bigger guys, Hal Swayze's, and I had the benefit of being in this investment group with them. So I'm just exposed to them now, and they just do things differently. And they probably would be like, well, like, okay, your brother's on the other line. That's fine. Like, that's just, it's not kind of a non-issue to me. Like, if you're really serious on that, you know? So,
dude, what I hear is like, we have the system, we have the 21 points, but you ever hear Mike ask the front row people on a scale of 1 to 10, what percentage of the system do you use?
yeah.
And usually from the front row, I always hear 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because if you listen to the back row, people are saying, oh yeah, I 10, I'm a 10. But the truth is, the reason the system is so simplified is that we have these different markets, different behaviors. We have to alter it to our style and their style.
Correct.
So just customize it to the situation, right?
Correct. Yeah. And I would say a definition of a lead, I guess the answer to that question would just be that it's someone who has a real motivation to me. I don't care about timeline. I don't care about anything else. What is the reason that they're looking to sell? What is the reason they're looking to buy? And again, I get that question by what benefit are you getting from either buying, or what benefit are you getting from selling this property? Like, really, what is it doing for you in your life? And if they can't answer that the right way, they're not a lead to me. And they go into the database, and I learned this from my coach. In today's technology world, everyone's in my follow-up list now. Everyone gets tagged. Everyone gets an email. Now, a postcard. Milton does a great job with postcards to me. So I can't think of anyone else but you know, in Orlando than obviously him for that reason, right? So he just keeps doing it that way. But like, but you're not really a lead then to me. So
yeah, you know, the other thing is too, I think that question, Nina, comes from a lot of us that don't know the actual listing presentation, because I'm looking at it. Question 6 is there's only 2 issues. Number 1 is, help me out.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Your motivation to sell this home.
And then number 2 is
The price was set.
And can I tell you guys
That's
something? Milton, that is the only 2 reasons that sell property. And you know why? It goes deeper, that at least from our market, you know, we have Jersey personalities. These people here, man, they'll just get in your face. They're just like, oh, it's crazy, right? But like, it always happens in an inspection time, because when we have major issues in inspection, we deal with oil tanks up here, right? We deal with structure. We have buildings and properties that are a lot older than what you guys deal with down in the South. So when you're talking about like that kind of thing, like, so we have a lot of issues in high, you know, flying like personalities. Is what I'm saying is your motivation to sell is super important, because you won't get through inspection then. And I tell them that up front. So motivation and price is everything.
It's almost like the purpose of the phone is to set an appointment. Like let's meet. If they're willing to set the appointment, the pre-qual is to just discuss motivation, and the presentation is the price. Would you agree?
That's correct.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys?
Got one more quick question. So I yesterday or a couple of days ago, I really started hunting, I guess, with the hot buyer script, but I don't know how solid it is. What does that conversation sound like? So you got a buyer, or you're looking for off-market properties. How does that look for you, Dean? Like when you're calling around in neighborhoods, what does that script sound like?
Like, you mean like my just sold script?
No, not just sold, but I have a hot buyer, right? Like, so if you got a buyer.
So I actually realized that the hot buyer script actually really doesn't work for me. I don't even use it. I just use a just sold. I always just call around just sold, because a hot, like, if you're calling specifically because you have a buyer, everyone's got a fucking buyer today. Right. There's no value that you're bringing. You're not bringing any value to that prospect, right? So To me, it's about like, I just sold this property. I got X amount over that amount that I got that, that for that seller there. Would you be open to having that same result? And then you bid and then see what their motivation is.
I've never heard Mike talk about a hot buyer script, and frankly, it's not one of our scripts. And then secondly, Darren, you're friend zoning yourself.
Okay.
Hey, girl, when would you like to go get some tea?
And by the way, and so Milton, one last thing I'll say, Darren, to you, kind of answer it. Like, I used to do a lot of previews, right, for FSBOs. A lot of preview. Yeah. I would preview this and preview that because it was, Tom Ferry approach, right? So that's like what I was used to. But that's the same thing that you're doing with a hot buyer script to me. You're not like just like Milton said, you're in the friend zone. Get out of the friend zone.
Well, I'm glad I asked because I was going to spend days trying to find properties for people. So great.
Oh, you can, but do it just sold way though, in my opinion.
Just sold way.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like Darren, if you have a buyer, don't even bring it up. I mean, listen, we just sold a house. When do you plan on moving?
Yep.
If there were a buyer, and then now you come in with a buyer a day or two later, you look like a hero.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I like it. I love it. Thank you.
Because most of the time they're going to let you come by to see the property, but I thought you had a buyer. Where's your buyer?
Exactly.
Real awkward, right?
Well, it does make sense. I actually do have the buyer, but it makes sense because even if I find somebody that's looking at it, it's like,
Darren, let me ask you,
open it up to the whole market.
Let me ask you a question, Darren. Do you think that buyer is married to you?
The one that I'm searching for, yeah. We just
sold your wife?
No, not married, but
because my question is this: if they got a sick deal on something, and it wasn't from you, would they still buy with you?
I'm sure not.
Well, I mean, it could be yes, could be no. The majority of the time, the answer is no. So what I'm saying to you is this: the buyer doesn't give a shit what you find for them until you find it for them.
Right.
So it's like you just gotta to me, it's just like a waste of time to even call for that buyer. The buyer doesn't give a shit that tomorrow they're gonna get another listing alert from another realtor. They like that one better. Oh, sorry, Darren, it was so great, working with you for the last 3 months, but I'm gonna go buy this property now with someone else. So, and because they're going to, and because in your market or wherever you are, you're going into the, they think they have to work with the listing agents because they can't find a property. So you know what I mean? It's like just focus on listings, dude. I mean, that's the way I looked at it now. So.
Makes sense. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk all day about that, man. Hey, Mr. Dean Clark, thank you so much. How does this group and anyone watching send you a referral?
Dean@deanclarkgroup.com. Text me 201-240-8319 or hit me up on social, man. Dean Clark @DeanClarkGroup.
Is that on Facebook,
Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
All right. What's your OnlyFans? Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching. Listen, Milton James, Dean Clark. Rest of you guys have a good day. All right.
See you guys.